Hi friends, this is Maggie. So I have a fun video today. It actually was a request from one of you subscribers to um, show how my different medias will work and play with different papers. I do have different journals that have different kinds of papers. The black journal, my sketch journal, that I always try to introduce some kind of color, ink journal. This is a mixed media journal and my watercolor journal. So I have different pages that I use, and also show you an example when you don't use the right paperwork for your mixed media. When you're using wet media, like if you use a Xerox paper, it would be a total disaster. Although your brush and your watercolor could be very expensive, the paper itself dictates on how that's gonna look like. So we're gonna have fun, and so we're just gonna throw colors around and hope you guys enjoy that, and maybe have some tips and things that I have learned and I'm learning. I did actually, let me show you. I'm gonna turn the camera around and I'm gonna show you a couple of pages that I put together, but actually I was doing the watercolor, or I was doing the drawing and the coloring, not in the journal, but I was just to keep it together. I came back and either glued it here or did one of those things. So I'll show you that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Okay, so we're back. So this is my last artwork that I have been working on. You guys saw that from my last video. So this is kind of a mixed media type. This was I posted this on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And this was actually I was playing with my watercolor and I wanted to make something fuzzy. You know, you guys know that I have been trying to get to that perfect stage, and I did play a little bit more. Still not there yet, but if you can see, let me see if I can do a close-up. It looks it looks like the bird has been electrocuted, to tell you the truth. But anyway, it's actually learning how to just pull that out. I now have an idea. I have to work on it again. I did it again, but this time I worked so hard to avoid that she didn't look so ruffled up, that you'll see it later on here, that it was more of a different bird. You'll see it here, but I am going to continue to practice and continue to work with this. But I love this. I love throwing colors, let it smear. So I did it, like I said before, I did it in a watercolor paper, and then I cut it out and I just kind of glue it here. The background is actually napkin, and I actually put mate, acrylic mate on it. That usually works good as a seal, but for this one, it just feels like it didn't create a nice protection over it. I don't know. So anyway, so that's all. This is just a napkin that I have. I placed it there, and then I put the bird here. This was acrylic, and on a regular, this was actually on a regular Xerox paper. So if you were working with acrylic and you want to do a little sketch and play with it, the Xerox paper will be okay, because this is what I got. And I was doing this playing in a video that I had done, a live stream that I did. She's a watercolor, and let's see, do a close up so you guys can see it. I also went ahead and kind of did a little bit of a mixed media. I used the inks to create this color in the background. I used the stencil to add this kind of white little designs here, and then this is washi tape, and then I did her in a regular butter paper, teared it out, and then just placed her there. This, I was playing with this one, and I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll just put it here. I just want to keep it to see as I'm playing with different, playing with my different medias and stuff like that. If I use a paper that is not particularly, this journal will not, definitely if I had used this page to create her there, definitely I will not, and you'll see that in the video, I will never get this effect or this look on this type of page, because this is watercolor and this is not. This is the Mandori paper, insert paper. You can get some colors, but you will not get something like this. So this was regular. This actually is the cheap watercolor paper book that I use just to play around. It actually is not. It's the mixed media Canson, and is I guess 98 pounds, 160 G. And it works well, but you can, I mean, from day and night, and this came out pretty good, but from day and night, even when you're working it, you just can feel it's much better when you're using the true watercolor paper, when you're using, you know, when you're using watercolor. But I did use this one, which took it very well actually. And what I was playing was let me see if I can get close, sort of to get those highlights there without having to either leave the space white without putting anything on it, or using white watercolor or white pen or something like that. I actually was using the watercolor and then lifting it up with a dry brush, which means it's wet, but it's dry, meaning that it doesn't have, it's moist, not wet, but it's moist. And then this obviously have to be wet. And when I was coming around, I was lifting it up, and it was creating, see if you guys can see it there, it was creating the highlights. So I thought that was kind of neat. So that's another trick. And then this one, this is also, I want to say it's the same paper. Yes, it is. I actually use the same paper, and I referenced a photo. And what I really wanted to do on this one was I wanted to play with the rocks, but not to actually have the lines on the rock. I wanted to be like far away and just kind of, you can see the mix of colors, you know, more of an abstract than the really defined rocks. And this was a lot of fun, but I had to do this a couple of times. It's not what I had in mind, but I still, you know, it still came up. But I referenced a photo, and then people from Facebook were saying, hey, isn't this place? And I'm going, it could be, because I just saw it and I thought it was so beautiful. The little houses, and just the lighthouse, and the little lake here. I think that was so just beautiful. But basically I wanted to just play and try to create some type of water, rocks and stuff like that. And when I saw this picture in Pinterest, I said, oh, that's beautiful. And I was playing with that. So, all right, we're going to go and play with some of the papers in the different medias. And let me come back to you. Okay, so before taking the papers and playing with the papers, I did find the other bird. When I created this one, I wanted to do the same thing with this one, but I was being so careful not to make it so ruffled like this, that it actually came out too straight. So I do know what I need to do, and I'm going to continue working on it. But then I ended up, you know, it's funny though, because here I was being way too careful. And I did the sketch, and I kind of went with the water. Basically, you have to have the water outside of the line. So when you come with the watercolor, it actually, it just goes out of the line, and it takes its own, just like watercolor behaves, you know, it'll go anywhere. But then here I was trying to control it so much, I ended up cleaning it up too much. But it was funny because I'm like, okay, this one is completely different. So we are going to start with some of the medias and how they behave with inks and acrylic paints and watercolor and all that. And so you guys, we all gonna learn from this. All right. Okay, so in my watercolor book that I have here, or journal that I have here, this is where I call the true watercolor, because it's 140 pounds, 300 GM, and this is, when you use the watercolor here, I don't know if you can see the texture of it, but it's you can feel it, and it's very thick. It's not like a regular paper. It's not like the insert in my journal. I'm sorry guys, remove the camera. Right. It's not like this type of paper here that I have here, which is kind of a regular paper, or the Tomoe paper, that's that wrinkly paper. It is solid, it is strong, and this is where you can pour a lot of water and create this beautiful artwork using watercolor. But not only that it takes watercolor, it also can take inks and it can take other medias. So we're going to play with that, and we're going to put different inks here and different medias here, and just see how this watercolor paper is going to take that. And then I'll turn it later on into a mixed media because it's probably going to be all messy. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with this page here. Okay, so what I did is I pulled everything that's blue in my mixed medias and my different inks and stuff like that. Let me make sure I got everything. Yes, I do. So I have the ink, Jane Davenport ink. It's called Incredible Ink. Then I have the Intense pencil by Derwent, and this is blue. Okay, we're going to use that. And this is a pencil that turns, once you color the page, it's not a color pencil, it actually turns into ink. Once you put it on the page, it doesn't, you're not able to remove it from there. We're going to play with the color pour. This is like kind of a powder. We're going to do blue acrylic ink, and this is all on this page. We're going to do this, they're like water soluble crayons, but they're soft and they're from Jane Davenport. The blue, and then a regular blue crayon, but it's a soft crayon that I think I saw this in Target and I liked it. So it's just a regular crayon. And then this is a water soluble oil pastel color, and then a Winsor Newton watercolor marker. And I think I have one more. I think that's it. Hold on, let me check. Yeah, I think that's it. Alright, so I'm going to, because it's a lot and it's a lot of pages that we want to play with this, so you guys can see the difference. I am not going to be drawing anything. I'm just going to pour it, and I'm going to try to do squares with them and use them there. So we'll start with this one, which is the like a crayon that's soft and it's watercolor. So we're going to go ahead and just make a little box here. And what is this supposed to do? This is now again, this is the way it looks like. Alright, we'll do a, let's make it big here. Alright, so what this one is supposed to do is, once you use this, you have to add water to it. So you take your brush, I'm going to use this brush, it's gonna, and then when you pour water on it, it's a water soluble crayon. And let me just bring it down so you can see it. Look how nice. See? That's your crayon. And then a lot of times when you're using crayons that are water soluble, you're gonna have those lines, which is gonna, for certain drawings, it will be perfect. But if you don't, you may not want to scribble on the page. You may just want to use the brush and go straight to the crayon itself and just pull the color out and just come to the page. Okay, so that's one. This is just a regular crayon, and it's just a regular crayon. So obviously if I put water on it, nothing's gonna happen. But what I like about this with crayons, if you, let's say I put a little heart here, when I come and I use my watercolor, and this is my Jane Davenport watercolor, I'm gonna use, let's use well, let's use the same kind of a similar color. Oh, this is a little too dark. But the fun thing about using crayons, it's that when you color on it, I should have used a different color. When you color on it, you end up with the design, and then the watercolor is just, it slides, it will not penetrate because it's crayon. So this is good to do for designs. They use, I see it a lot using the white crayon, and when you put your watercolor, if I had used the white crayon on this one, let me see where I have them, you will get see, with the white crayon, we'll do it again, you don't see the white crayon. And then when you come in with the water color, then you get everything else. You want to press hard. That's the one thing you want to do. Press hard. And then you see the heart there? So sometimes you see, you want to use it in the background to create, I've done a lot of drawings using that circles and stuff in the back going on with crayons, and then pouring the watercolor, and you kind of get that. Alright, so we use the crayons. This is the oil pastel that's also water soluble. So again, that's kind of behave like the crayon here that we use here. Look, actually, look at see how it dries, and you still see the crayon. That's pretty nice, depending on what you're working on. This one, it moves, but it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't move. This is just a regular plain. I take that back. I thought this was water soluble, but it's not. You still get that color, you see? See? And then our next one is going to be the Winsor Nectar. And now this is all on watercolor paper, so you guys can see how it behaves with those colors. Now this is supposed to be a marker that is supposed to move when you pour water, and I don't see that happening too much when I use it. You see, just a little bit. It moves just a little bit, not too much. So I don't use it as much. If I'm doing a mixed media and I want to do a highlight or something, I may use that. And then obviously this is just the ink. For inks, we don't need water. We go straight with the brush, whatever we're using. So this is the ink. It looks pretty good on the watercolor paper. Okay. And then we have the powder. If you guys know this, you can feel free to let me know. I don't think I do this right, but I believe what you do is you put your water on your page like that, right? And then you come in and you just kind of let the ink do their stuff. But for some reason, yeah, there you go. I guess you gotta put water on it. It's a powder, and it turns, you see? So if you want to have like spots that is just kind of chunks here and there, then you can use this pearl. It's like a powder ink, and this one is called Color Pour. And then this is just a regular watercolor pencils, which I'm very impatient, so you'll you'll never see me do a whole artwork with pencil. I mainly use it for lines, so if I want to sketch something that I know I'm going to color and I don't want the lines to show and I want it to fade away. But this is the pencil. And again, for those of you guys who love to use watercolor pencil, this is how they behave on a watercolor page. This is pretty nice. Oh, I like this color. Wow, I like this blue. See? And there's your watercolor pencil. And then we have gouache. And then for gouache, and gouache is, I call it half watercolor and half acrylic because you can move your ink around. So I'll show you how gouache looks on watercolor paper. So far watercolor paper did take very well. The ink, most of them, I mean, so far has done a good job. This is your gouache. And for you guys who don't know what gouache is, the neat thing about gouache is once this is dry, I can come with white, you know, and I can just actually put a white line over it without having the bottom, the first layer mix. It will mix though if you keep going with your brush because it's supposed to move. It's like watercolor. But you can come in and you can do highlights. With watercolor, once you use a dark color, you can't come in and use a light color. Really, that dark color penetrates. So that's why a lot of people suggest that you start with light colors and then darken as you go. So that's the gouache. So far, look, it's also sit very well on that paper. Right? And now we're going to do this so you can see the difference between the same ones, same media, same ones on a Xerox paper, so you can see the difference of what it is using a watercolor page. One more that I forgot, and it's the Pastels. This is from Jane Davenport, and I love this because when you're done with the drawing and you're done with your watercolor, and I use it a lot for shadows, or I use it a lot like I want a soft cheeks, you know, like the reddish color or stuff like that. When I use this, it's beautiful. But it actually sits on your paper, and you don't use a brush for that. You have to use one of these little things here. One of these things here. Let me get a clean one, or let me get a blue one. We'll get a blue one here. And then this will sit like this on your paper. I love this. The only thing is, once you're done with your drawing, you may want to seal it with either acrylic mate, you know, or the spray to just, you know, because it's like a powder, it definitely is gonna lift up unless you seal it. But look how beautiful that is. So the watercolor paper takes all this really nicely. Now look the whole thing again here on a regular Xerox paper so you can see the difference. Alright, we'll start with the this one. It's supposed to be the soluble crayon. Okay. And then we'll get the brush. And then you'll be able to move it. You'll be able to do that. But when you compare it, you're going to see the difference. Okay, so that's one. Oh, I keep forgetting. I also forgot to use the acrylic. Because you can use acrylic. Coming back here again. Sorry, guys. Let's do acrylic. Now, this is the real acrylic. This is not the gouache. And I love acrylic. Acrylic can just sit on practically every paper that I work with. So acrylic is a nice media to use. So we'll use the acrylic. And now here on the, let's put a little bit more. Because of the water paper, this particular one has, it's not a flat surface. It creates those little empty spaces here. But you can put a little bit of water, just a little bit, not too much, and go solid with it. So this is how it would look like on watercolor paper, and that's acrylic. Alright, let's go back to the Xerox paper. So far, look how bad it's getting. Obviously, the paper is getting all bent out of shape. Look at the way the back. Okay, alright, and then let's see. I think crayon, a regular crayon will work fine. And then we'll do that little thing we did before. Let's grab. I'm gonna take a lighter color so we can see the difference. No, that's light. Let's go dark. Let's go dark. Let's go real dark. Well, let's use this one. Oh, this is perfect. See, that's what it's supposed to do on that page. And I think I just didn't use the right. But you see the design there? Okay. That's that. The other one was, this is going to be the watercolor marker. And we'll use the, now, let me show you this. Look, even on the Xerox paper, look how it's not, it just doesn't take well. I'm going to add a little bit of water because it's supposed to be a watercolor. And it's just horrible. Horrible. Alright. Let's see. I'm not going in the same order. This, I'm assuming this is going to be fine. Because this is that, I'm using this one. This is just that powder. So I think that's going to be fine to use on this paper. Let me see. This is the oil pastel. And on this paper, that's the way it's going to look like. We're going to use the Intense inks from Derwent. And we'll put the water, because this is supposed to be an ink. It'll turn into an ink. And that's how it looks like. Thing is, God forbid you have to go back and redo. Once this paper is wet, you don't even want to touch it. If you're just going to put a splash of color, You have to leave it like that because will tear apart. We'll do a little bit of the acrylic. And the acrylic will behave really well with this paper because I've used it before. I'm mixing my... I used it before. I actually diluted it too much. This is supposed to be acrylic. So it should be more like acrylic. There it goes. I'm trying to use the same brush for everything. That's your acrylic. And again, everything in the back is all wrinkled. Okay? And this will be just the plain watercolor, which looks so nice, but then the paper goes all over the place. And actually I don't think I used the straight through watercolor here because I want to do the comparison so you guys can see that. This is the true color ink for the true paper. This is how you play with it. It's beautiful. I love it. Okay. And then we'll do the inks. Even the color looks different. It's not the color for this. It even changes the look of the color. That's interesting. And then we'll do the I like this one. So the bottom line for this, I think I used all of them here. It's whatever you use with the exception of acrylic and maybe the pastel powder, you know, type of media or ink, whatever you call that, powder. It will be the only thing that will hold with the paper. Everything else will just kind of look. And the acrylic, obviously. And again, and then you still get that wrinkle effect that it's not really going to work well. So that's just an example of if you can avoid this unless you're using that, you may want to just get a different paper that's able to hold that type of media. Okay, so the bottom line is that it's based on your paper and what medias you're using. If it's a wet media, you're gonna get reactions that you don't like. If it's a watercolor paper designed for water, then you're gonna get a better outcome of the medias that you're using. I didn't do the black journal. This one is supposed to be, I think it's watercolor, but I've used the watercolor would kind of be transparent here, so the best media to use for a black journal will be the gouache. that has that acrylic, and acrylic will be the best media to use. I mean, even though you can use something else depending on what you're doing, these are the main two medias that you want to use for this journal. Obviously, on a sketch journal, you want to just keep ink and pencil, but again, I jump in here and I love using colors. Here I just went ahead and just stuck that one there, but you don't get a good when you're using watercolor. What behaves a little better for this journal is the gouache, the Himi gouache, because it's more of an acrylic, and acrylic can go basically on all of them. Acrylic will work well. Same thing with the inks. This paper is just ready to take. This will be almost like a mixed media, like a watercolor paper or a mixed media paper. It will take. Primarily the inks I use it more for inks because the flow of it is really pretty when you use them, or mixed media. I mean, I use everything here for that one. But again, this is I apologize for that. This is the not so expensive watercolor, and these are the different colors that I use, and you can see that the paper was not straight. It got wrinkled a little bit. The two good medias for this paper was not the two, but there were more. You have the gouache, you have the watercolor, you have the pro. That one looks really nice, but again, if you put a lot of water, then your paper is not going to be straight. So that's what you got to keep in mind. Xerox, with the exception acrylic, and if you don't mind the wrinkling, all of them did not work well. Even the colors, they change. It doesn't have, you see the comparison? See how clean those colors are in comparison? See how clean and solid those colors are, and this is kind of all over the place. That's what happened when the paper's not a watercolor paper. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and this was helpful. I do have a lot. I think I took out too many stuff, but it just kind of gives you an idea of how the paper behaves with the different type of media that you have. Have a wonderful time, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks. Bye.